Welcome back to another edition of Zero Blog 30. Today, Catherine has prepared the sheet, and we are ready to go with all kinds of topics. Kate, what do we got?
We have 3 rounds in the magazine today. The Ricochet shot heard around the campaign. Round number 2, Barracks with faulty doors, locks, and windows are all too common. And this horror story coming out of Fort Cavazos, Texas, illustrates how reckless, negligent, and dangerous that is. Basically,
can I say something before? I know Fort Cavazos is Fort Hood. That's the only thing I'm pissed about all these name changes is that I have to really think where these fuckers
where
are.
These are, yeah.
Like,
yes.
Fort Liberty, where's Fort Justice, where's Fort Integrity?
Yeah.
Like, I have no idea what base you're talking about at all.
This is the great place,
That's
right?
the Hood. That's a Hood.
Yes,
right?
it is the
Yes.
great place.
Yes.
Formerly Fort Hood.
Not so great. This story is bananas. Basically, he wasn't successful, but basically a serial killer and a serial rapist running around on base, and nobody heard mum about it. And it's just absolutely crazy. And it shows the importance also of not letting the barracks get too run down, because just simply not safe. Round number 3, good initiative, bad judgment. Woman gets stuck between a rock and a hard place. And the photo of this is absolutely insane, and I can see it happening to me. So we're going to cover that before we head into the week.
I don't know what that means at all, but I'm intrigued.
Yeah. Basically, lady chased her cell phone. She dropped her cell phone, said, I can grab that.
Oh, okay.
And all I'll say is, foreshadowing, stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Okay.
Round number 1, if you haven't seen this, you hope, say you're running for office, you gotta hope that your opponent gets like caught with a prostitute or accidentally posts something and you can see his Pornhub link at the top by accident. You know what I mean? You gotta
or like cheated on his wife that was dying with cancer.
Yeah,
like John
like
Edwards.
John Edwards,
Oh,
little
no.
John Edwards.
John Edwards would
that.
have been president if he didn't do that.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
What
in my
year was
mind
that?
He would have won.
2000? 2004?
Probably. I think he went
Yeah.
up. Maybe he was primarying against Gore. Maybe.
But you gotta hope for something like that, and we have a small version of that happened with a Kunce, no less. So we have a
Kunce.
A Kunce. I'm saying Kunce. A
Depends where
bullet
you're
fragment struck a TV reporter at a shooting range during a campaign event on Tuesday for U.S. Senate candidate Lucas Kunce. Yeah.
All right. So I contacted one of our buddies that has been on the show. I still think he's the most recurring guest on the show. I texted him this morning. Adam Kinzinger was there too.
He was there.
Because Adam has been going around and campaigning with various Democrats across the country.
Yeah.
One guy that he's going against is Josh Hawley, who is the current incumbent senator from Missouri, who the St. Louis Dispatch recently, actually this week, came out and they said not only is he the worst senator in Missouri, he's the worst senator in the country. And they listed all these reasons why, like he was the most partisan, hadn't accomplished anything, doesn't look to accomplish anything, is just there for like fear attainment, I think is what they called.
Yeah.
And so Kinzinger hates Hawley because Hawley was one of the guys in January 6th who was talking all tough after. But then whenever all the footage came out, if you remember, where Hawley was the one that was highlighted for running across the rotunda.
Right, he looked like he was running like he had to go to the bathroom.
Yeah. So Kinzinger has hated him from that moment because he says that it just shows all kinds of cowardice, which I 1,000% agree with.
Yeah. So Kinzinger is down there with Kunce, Kinzinger and Kunce law firm. Kinzinger's down there with Kunce, who's Democrat. Kinzinger, former Republican. I guess he still is Republican. I don't know what he is anymore.
I think he's technically still a Republican. He hasn't officially made the switch.
Won't denounce.
But they're down at this shooting range, and Kunce was in the Marine Corps for 13 years. So whether you're Democrat, Republican, if you're running for office, there's a cool commercial of you holding a gun or in a jet plane or whatever, even if you were a bulk fuel specialist or whatever you were. So, of course, he's at the range with camera people there and everything, and a ricochet hits off the sign, bounces back, and hits one of the journalists, Ryan Gamboa, who begins bleeding from his arm. Other journalists begin capturing the images of then Kunce, who is wrapping gauze and a belt around the reporter's arm to stop the bleeding.
Little hasty tourniquet.
Gamboa remains at the range and continues on the assignment. You never know what's going to happen. Shrapnel can ricochet off anything, and you've got to be prepared, Kunce said.
I was actually, when I saw the picture the first time of where it was at, I was like, he did a good job placement. Do it 2 to 3 inches below the joint is where you want to be, as close to the joint as you can, and not too hard. It was, really, it was pretty fucking close to the same spot where I got hit.
Really?
Like, that's pretty similar. Damn close. Like, in the area, mine went through, but it's still, the hasty tourniquet aspect of it, I was like, I've done that to myself before. Yes, it's very intriguing.
And he had a good amount of blood on his sleeve, but not too much. A tasteful amount. Very demure, very mindful. The shooting range event came within 2 weeks of Election Day. Kunce has emphasized his military background and campaign edge, some of which show him firing a gun. Look at me, I'm a cool Democrat. I'm not like regular Democrats. And
he was out there also with former guest of the show, Jason Kander, who used to be the Secretary of State of Missouri, and he went viral in 2016, I believe it was, in his Senate campaign for unloading and showing clear and then putting it back together, disassembling the weapon blindfolded. Do you guys remember that?
Oh, yes, no.
Yeah, so Kander he was talking about being a combat veteran with like PTSD and running and being a gun guy and knowing good guys, and he was like, I know all about guns, and was like talking through it. It was actually a pretty cool ad. Like as far as gun ads go, it was pretty good. But Kander was out there too, so he had some prominent. Kinzinger is not a Democrat, but he's getting close.
He's dipping those toes in the water.
That fucking lib.
Yeah, all three of them had to be like, God damn it, when the bullet struck this guy.
Well, he is.
All right,
because I texted him. I texted Adam this morning.
Yeah, what did he say?
So I could tell he got a little triggered right away. I love Adam.
Yeah.
So I said,
well, you also trigger him.
I do in a big way. Yeah. I think it's the enlisted officer thing. So I said, hey, do we actually need to have a safety brief for you? And he said, WTF, does everyone think I was the one that shot Jesus? And I said, no, but you were the senior ranking officer there. And he said, actually, no, Lucas is a Marine 05 as well. So they're both 05. And I said, what about data rank? Because I'm pretty sure Kinzinger has them there. And I know, and Katie knows, whenever you're in boot camp, when two Marines are together, one of them's in charge. And it doesn't even matter if you're the same rank. We go back to data rank. Who was it, Kinzinger? The people need to know. Who had the range safety officer needs to have a safety violation.
I'm just glad, because I looked, guess what was the first thing?
But his biceps, I did point out to him, even though you're getting made fun of for like
in good shape.
I was like, your biceps look great, and that's all that matters.
His
hair was on point, as always.
The first thing I looked for were they all wearing iPro, and they were. They're lucky.
Well, Kinzinger had one picture where the iPro was on his head. A lot of good it does up there, champ.
After they were shooting, though, during shots fired, he had him on his face.
All right.
I will give him that. You know, Cons, I think safety is paramount, and I would never.
It always is. For those who don't know, Chaps actually makes us get on a FaceTime every Friday, me and Kate, and he gives us a safety brief every weekend.
Yeah, I have Kate, and here on Friday afternoons after the yak, me and Kate go outside and I do a PM on her vehicle as well.
And we put chalk blocks under it and everything. It's a whole.
She has to send me a screenshot of her insurance.
My wipers don't work.
I saw this story and I was like, oh man, that's bad. And then in my head, I'm thinking, it's like, how did shrapnel ricochet? And then I started seeing the pictures. To call this a range was a stretch. When I think of a weapons range, I think of a massive open field with a very high berm and targets at hundreds of yards away. These guys were shooting tin cans from like 20 feet away, it looked like. So where was the range safety officer on that?
They didn't have the access to Fort Abundant Beauty like everybody else did.
Okay.
That's what we did growing up. We would shoot 22s at cans on strings, like right in front of a stone quarry, which turns out you don't want to shoot near rocks. That's ricochet fuel. Even wood, things can ricochet off wood, but apparently this ricocheted off the sign. Needless to say, so Kunce is facing an uphill campaign against Senator Josh Hawley, the Republican seeking his second term in Senate. He is down in the polls by about 11%, and he is set to hold a rally on Tuesday evening in Kansas City. I'm saying no publicity is bad publicity, right? This gets his name out there. A little shooting debacle, everybody.
No, I mean, honestly, I think it's worse. This is one of those cases where it plays to be a Democrat pussy. Like where I don't think people expect them. Like even Hawley, who's never done anything aggressive in his life, goes after the Marine Lieutenant Colonel infantrymen and is like, this is what happens when liberals have guns. Even though he's fired it in anger, like in war, Howley's like, this guy's a pussy, and nobody cares. Not to
mention, he's an officer. It's just a bad look for officers because we're already painted as people largely who don't know anything when it comes to anything in the military. So it just doesn't help our case.
And I've said over and over again that there's not very many people. I never talk shit, and I think Cons, you could back this up. I don't talk shit about Marine officers. I don't.
No, you don't. You absolutely don't.
I respect the fuck out of them because they're. I acknowledge that their training is harder than ours.
Like motherfuckers.
Every aspect of their training is harder, from boot camp all the way to secondary school. Every aspect.
Oh yeah. Needless to say, the Hawley campaign's having a field day with this. They're retweeting every jab. They're like really taking advantage of this. And then the gun people are zooming in on, look at the way this person's finger was here. Look at the way this scope is. Look at the way, like, you just can't win. You just really.
And I call that.
What if Lucas comes out?
Kunce
comes out and he's. What if Kunce comes out and he's like, you know what? Actually, not even I can't do it. Let's fucking ban these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be a strong play from him, I think.
I would just say, if you're a veteran running
instant
for office,
death sentence in Missouri.
Maybe do a smoke pit ad instead of a rifle ad. You know,
that'd be good.
Guys, we don't have to do the hardo ads and the hardo things. We can just be normal people. But
yeah,
interesting nonetheless. Maybe it'll get his name out there. Maybe not. But people are having
11%. Is that insurmountable? You think 11% 2 weeks prior?
Oh, he's losing Missouri. He doesn't have a chance. Yeah. You could have. I mean, I legitimately think you could have Ronald Reagan put D by his name, and you're not winning as a Democrat in Missouri.
Yeah.
Missouri is sneaky. One of the most conservative states that there is.
I don't think it's sneaky.
Sneaky for me. Like, I guess because I just didn't realize it until the last 7 to 8 years just how they do belong in the SEC.
They do.
Based on politics alone, they belong in the SEC.
I have a question that maybe you guys can help me with, and maybe you can't. So, people always say oh, what's the point of voting? My state is blue. My state is red. What's the point? But at some point, things change because I went and looked at New Jersey. New Jersey's been blue for every election since Clinton. But prior to that, it was red for 6 elections. So it's what has to happen? Does it have to be such a impressive candidate to flip a state? Or what do you think has to happen for a state to go the other way?
Change agents, I think, are a big one. I think you saw that with Ohio, with Trump, because that one used to go back and forth overall. But since 2016, Ohio's been really, really conservative. So I think change agents come along every now and then. Reagan was that, for example. Yeah. That was the change. I would imagine, thinking back just real quickly, that was the change agent in New Jersey.
I think, too, it's the same thing as every few years how I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to cut bangs. I think people in a certain state, after a while, if life isn't changing or getting much better for them, they're like, you know what? Let's vote Republican this time, or let's vote Democrat this time. Eventually, I feel like the pendulum swings, right? And it goes back the other way.
Colorado's an example for liberalism. It used to be really red,
and then it switched over
and was purple, and now it's basically solidly a blue state.
I just saw a news thing about Cook. Is it Cook County? No. It's a county in North Illinois or somewhere on the Great Lakes, and I think since 2004 or something like that, they have gotten every election right.
So it's a county in Wisconsin.
And that's changed over the years, and they get it right every single time. And they're like, we consider ourselves purple instead of red or blue because we're always changing our minds and flip flopping and blah 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 blah. But they've gotten it right every single time. So yeah, I don't know what the thought process is behind it. But
the old adage used to be if you won Ohio, you won the election.
Yeah.
But I guess it's just all to say, make sure you go out and vote. Your vote does matter.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Indeed, it does. Mm-hmm. All right.
Surprise episode. We only have a few more minutes before Kunce has to go. He's got something to do. I want to throw something out real quick while Kunce is on because I want his thoughts as well.
Yeah.
I am so fucking sick of... I am about to talk shit about Marine officers after I just did that. John Kelly is a fucking coward. Okay. Marine General John Kelly is a coward of the highest order. Just the fact that this motherfucker is going on and doing written interviews, he won't go on camera because he's non-political, to talk about the dangers in which Trump has and becoming the president. He's confirming the suckers and losers statements outside of Normandy. He's doing, but he won't sit down because he's not political. Bitch, you were the fucking chief of staff of the president of the United States. That could be the single most political position that there is, because the president, you could argue, is not a political position once you're in there because you're the commander in chief. The chief of staff is 1,000% only a political position, and he won't go on camera. Mattis too. Mattis is a little bitch too because he won't do it. Well, if you have those grave concerns where you think that he might be like Hitler, say it on fucking Good Morning America, John Kelly, you pussy.
You're
I mean, if they're willing
forgetting
to
a
put it
lot
in
of people
print,
don't
I
look good
think
under bright
they
lights,
won't.
and maybe they think they won't look good.
I just
In the
don't. A
lighting.
dude whose son was killed in service went to a funeral at a gravesite, a military gravesite, said in front of him that the people that died were suckers and losers, and you won't say it on fucking camera because you're not a political person. He's a pussy.
Well, maybe so, but he's also likely trying to just keep himself out of the fray for
Pussy.
another multitude of reasons.
You don't have that choice as a
life.
4-star. You don't have it, especially not when you're in those positions.
Is he still a 4-star? Is he like still in?
No, retired. No,
No, okay.
like because he was the chief of staff, like the guy in charge of Trump's daily schedule. Who can and who can? He was Leo fucking McGarry for
I was
Trump.
gonna say, where's Leo McGarry when you need him?
Like you can't, if you have that big of reservations and you think somebody's a danger, say it. I don't get that. And if he doesn't think that, then don't. But you can't allude to something that serious and not say it on camera.
Yeah.
Well, like I think he's just trying to preserve whatever else he's working on currently, and doesn't want to get in his head overly political. Because I think he probably thinks if I start saying these things out loud, or I might get in an interview where I get a question asked and I don't have the best prepared answer, or I say something that could be taken a different way, especially now with social media and how everything gets shared and goes viral. He's
That is cowardice. I think that's cowardice.
I'm not saying it's not, but I'm explaining probably where he's coming from.
Yeah, 1,00000%.
Yeah, I guess if
I
you could
agree. He
write-
doesn't want that as his
Yeah, if you
his
can
shit.
write it.
Like he doesn't want his face to be out there, and that's my point. Like you can't serve your country for 40 years, do what he's done in uniform, take that position, hold that belief, share that belief lightly. Like and if nobody would have ever known if he didn't do it in an interview. But say it. Like there's the people that need that information probably are not reading the Atlantic.
Right.
No.
No chance.
Definitely
Not a single chance. Yeah.
Anyways, we'll come back with something even brighter.
Yeah. Tough round coming up here.
All right, so let's move on to round number 2.
Yeah, this is crazy. And I think what's even crazier is we do a military podcast. I'm looking at
This one that people are listening to.
This is the one.
In fact,
And
this is the same.
But
same
we're always looking
podcast.
for stories, and how I had not heard of this one because it's so major.
Not just you either. None of us did.
Like, that's crazy because this happened in 2022. But a Fort Cavazos sergeant broke into the barracks rooms of 5 soldiers over the span of 18 months with the intent to rape them, holding 2 of the women at gunpoint and strangling one with a lamp cord until he thought she was dead. I'm sorry, I probably should have given a warning before I hopped right into that. Heavy round. Sergeant Greville Clarke, age 31, and he was with the engineer battalion there. He was arraigned on Monday on 9 charges with a total of 27 counts, including premeditated murder, attempted rape, violation of lawful general regulation, rape, unlawful recording, robbery, burglary, aggravated assault, kidnapping, obstruction of justice. There are 5 victims. Clarke pleaded not guilty on Monday and delayed selecting a court-martial with a jury or only a judge. So he continues to be a little bitch. In the most recent incident on October 2nd of 2022, Clarke is accused of breaking into a woman's barracks room, holding her at gunpoint, tying her hands up with rope, blindfolding her, sexually assaulting her, taking photos of her naked. It's a 21-page charge sheet that's just a horrific read. At some point in the attack, Clarke hit her head with a loaded firearm, took 2 cell phones and her credit card, stole $14,000 from her bank account. It ended when he forced her into a Foot Locker to move her to another location. At which point, if I'm her, I'm like, this is it for me. This is completely it.
Mm-hmm.
But she managed to escape and run around a corner before he could shoot her. Like, that to me is straight out of the worst horror film you could possibly think of. That's like the most horrific shit of all time. Like, I can't believe I hadn't heard that until now. The charge sheet does not indicate how long the attack lasted. That same day, Fort Cavazos officials sent out a text message alert to soldiers living at the intersection at an intersection there, warning to stay away because a man with a gun had been seen. But that was it. That was the only warning that went out. That the charge sheet described a similar.
Wait, they knew somebody got shot and they didn't say anything about that?
Nobody got shot. Before he could shoot, she got away, but he had 2 loaded guns. Like it very well could have. The charge sheet described a similar attack that occurred in July of 2022, in which Clarke used a handgun to hold a woman against her will, tie her basically almost same exact thing. He strangled her with a lamp cord and placed his foot on her neck. He only stopped when he thought she was dead. And once again, I'm sure she thought that she was dead too. He also photographed that woman, took her cell phone, keys, room key, Apple Watch, wallet, military ID, 5 pillows, 2 sheets, blankets, comforter, because he thought he murdered her. So he was taking all the evidence, washed and disposed of the items. Like, he thought he had killed. This is a serial killer.
Right.
This is a serial rapist and a serial killer. On March 5th and 16th, he's accused of breaking into 2 other barracks rooms and holding the women against their will at knife point with intent to rape and assault. Accused of breaking into a 5th room in July of that year with the intent to rape the occupant. Other charges against Clarke include not registering the firearm to keep it at his on-post residence and disposing of victims' cell phones to hide the evidence. Now, I went back and I did find some news stories, but there's only a couple from 2022. And it says that they had a couple safety stand downs. CID was teaching women self-defense at this time. And they did an inspection of the barracks there. I'm going to go ahead and call bullshit. If this guy could break into that many barracks that easily with other troops all around, then the barracks aren't secure. Then the rooms aren't safe. If it can happen that easily. And I remember as a troop, like, we locked our keys in our room all the time. And you would just hoist your buddy up and they'd shimmy in some random ass. But like,
dude, I take my arrival ad card and put straight through and you're in.
There is no way that they did room inspections with any real sense of seriousness if this happened 5 times. And I thought it was interesting, the Hots and Cots app. Have you guys been following that?
No.
I heard about it before and I looked at it once or twice, but I just started following. So I'm going to be tracking from now on.
So this
I know what
guy,
it is, though, but go ahead.
It's basically like a Yelp. It's an app that you can download, and I highly recommend you do if you're a military member. It's basically a Yelp for enlisted troops and officers that live on base. So you can see the conditions of like, oh, I'm going to this post next, and I'm going to this barracks. Let me look up on Hots and Cots and see, oh no, they're saying there's mold in this barracks. They're saying, like, it's a great way for soldiers to anonymously review the food and the living situations in which they're living, so they don't have to worry about repercussions. Say they've told their sergeant 20 times and there's still mold in their room, they can put it there. And major news outlets, like, every now and then will do a story. They, like, NBC News follows the Hots and Cots. Like, all these major news outlets are tracking on this, and whenever there's a particularly egregious one now, it gets out there. Our guy Kyle was saying at the AUSA, is that what the conference was the other week? There was an officer speaking out against that and saying they just need to go through their chain of command. But
I just want to point out that officer wasn't Cons.
It was not Cons.
Cons doesn't care.
But the Hots and Cots app, they have a Twitter at HotsCots_app. And they wrote, after they saw this story, this is really sad to read and unfortunate. Only if we had signs, this was a concern. Oh, wait. And there it is. Posts about broken windows and door locks. Posts about ex-spouses breaking in and assaulting service members, poor lighting, bunch of like, if you're putting a woman in a room, because a lot of times we would get separated, there's only a few of us, and we'd be put in like the desert of the barracks where there was no other people, and that's when you're at your most vulnerable. You're actually really safe on a very busy city block, even if there's a few goofballs walking around, than you are on like an empty city block. A lot of times women get put in the rooms that are like way off to the side for their privacy, but that's not the
thinking back
way.
Like that's exactly every barracks I lived in was like that. Like if there are women, it would be, you'd have it a barracks full of people, and then there'd be like 10% of the women, and you'd have a whole floor that had like 3 people on it.
This is service members in one discussion said they were concerned unsecured doors would allow intruders into the barracks to assault service members. And this was at Fort Cavazos, like troops saying like, hey, this is really unsafe. The barracks are really unsafe here. I thought this obviously has gotten a lot of outcry. Another part of it is miles to go. This woman, Dr. Tracy K, said miles to go, and yet it was 5 soldiers attacked over 18 months. Why did this happen more than once? How do we protect soldiers who are women? How do we remove criminals from the Army 5 times? That's what kept replaying in my head. These crimes are so similar. It would be pretty quick to piece together. It's the same person doing this. I'm repeating myself, but how the fuck do you not, if I'm the commander of that base, we are going door to door, window to window, making sure we're redoing locks if we have to. I don't care how expensive that is. We're like reinforcing the windows. We're giving women sticks to put in the fucking windows. And like, I don't know. I
think it's military culture. I think it's because it's sad to say, but commanders get awarded not because they're doing things that are good. Not good, but like that. Commanders are not going to flag themselves essentially, like, and say, I have an unsafe environment, when it would look so much better to be like, I have observed this in my position as the commander of what my troops are going for, and this will not suffice.
Yes, it would be a great OER bullet to say, hey, I took command in XYZ month. These are the things I noticed, and here's how I improve them. Because when you join the military, especially as a female, you shouldn't have a sense of fear that you need to worry. You should feel like you're on a controlled, secure military base. You should feel so safe that you don't have to lock your door to your barracks room. Now, I know that's not the case. People are still going to, human nature is going to take over, and you need to be safe. But in my opinion, if I were going to let my daughter go join the military, I shouldn't have to have these worries that something is going to happen to her while she's asleep. And that if it happens once, it can happen 4 more times, and significant action isn't taken to try to figure out what the heck is going on and prevent it from happening again.
If the rooms are insecure and it's that unsecured and it's that easy to get in, I mean, looking at it too, I'm sure there are men that have been assaulted.
Oh,
yes,
100%.
Easily, who are too afraid to come forward because it was so easy. They were drunk, they passed out. It was easy to break into their room and do whatever if you're a creep. Like, that's just insane to me. That's my head is spinning. And then at our Army Reddit has a Twitter page, and I thought that this was a great part of the conversation. When discussing elements of barracks to evaluate for Hots and Cops app, one of the women in our group mentioned safety features: parking lot well lit, what kinds of locks are on the doors, interior, exterior lighting. You may not notice, but I always notice. It was stuff that the guys in the group hadn't even thought about. When DPW hadn't fixed the outdoor light in 3 weeks, I shrugged it off. When you realize someone else sees that as a potential for being assaulted, you start to pay attention. And
I think that shows that, and it's obviously sad, but women live in a different world than men do.
Totally.
Like, I cannot imagine checking the windowsill of a barracks that I got put in. There is zero chance I would have ever done that. But it's something that you guys have to think about, and that's awful.
Yeah, it's crazy. And the old neighborhood I lived in Rutherford, there was a guy going around in a truck, and he was groping women who were walking with strollers because he knew how vulnerable they were. And for a while in the middle of the day, I was afraid to go outside and walk around with my kid by myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just little things like that. So it was like, go down the busy roads. Like, the route I took, I would take my kid on routes specifically for what was safest. And I don't think a guy walking a baby would ever think about that shit. Like, it would never have to cross his mind.
Absolutely not.
Not at all. I would walk any which way in Hoboken when I was still living there, even with Maggie. And I didn't think twice about it. And if there was a street light out, I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm all good. So
totally different. But this is crazy. His hearing is scheduled for December 10th. He has been in pretrial confinement since October 3rd, 2022, the day after the last attack. I was trying to look and find how I think they started to piece together that the attacks were similar. Even though 18 months.
I imagine they stopped when he was incarcerated.
Yes, they did. The case is
It's crazy you can't use that as evidence, too.
What's that? Oh,
there's
by the way, this guy's
tight pattern. Right.
Yes.
And then once we arrested him, he's in, there is no more.
Right.
I also, they noted in this article, the case has taken nearly 2 years to bring to court because piecing together additional accusations and multiple victims took substantial investigative and administrative efforts. Still, how long? It doesn't take 2 years. Yeah. There's no way. I know you don't want to fuck up the case. You want to get all the info you can and blah, blah, blah. But that, to me, if I'm one of the victims, is re-victimizing me all over again, waiting year after year for justice.
I will say, now I never did any criminal investigation like this, but I did do a 15-6 investigation one time, and I had to interview a lot of people, and it involved potential criminal activity with drugs and a drug overdose. The amount of times I had to go back and forth with legal, because let's not forget, I didn't pass the bar. I'm not an attorney by trade. So I had to keep writing up this investigation and getting it signed off on by a lawyer. So in essence, I was doubling the time it took because I would write it, he'd have to review it back and forth, da 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 da. So I'm not excusing it, but I can understand how an investigation, especially a criminal one of this magnitude, would take that long. And I guess, chaps, in terms of the person being in jail, I guess probably any defense attorney worth their salt would say, like, there's no way to actually prove that, even though common sense tells you, like,
for sure. Yeah. And it would be like a violation of due process. It'd be like, but I'm saying, like, from a no shit Sherlock perspective, like, that's a pretty good indicator.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say about these barracks, go ahead.
So with the time, I think you see that pretty closely with civilian courts as well. I have less of a problem with the time here because the guy was incarcerated.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
that's true.
I think whenever you're dealing with crimes like that and somebody has the opportunity to bail out, it's a little bit different because then they're living a free life. But if this guy is in, and if you're a sexual assaulter in a military jail, if you're in like a rapist, a pedophile, or anything like that in any jail, it's a tough time for you. From what I've understood from like corrections people that I served with, those people get treated like absolute dog shit, like whenever they're in there. So he's been in there for 2 years, doesn't have the conviction, but also as somebody who's been to jail, like it's like spent a little time in jail, you would much rather be sent to your final spot than the in between.
Yeah.
So like people that you're like, oh, you're in county jail for 2 years or whatever. That is so much worse than going to a penitentiary. Like that 2 years on a small base where he's going to be, or not, I don't know how big the base is. It's going to not enjoyable time.
Yeah. Well, good. I just can't, I keep circling back to it. How do you not put, if you know there's a serial rapist out there and they're taking this seriously, like he almost killed two, like he wanted to kill all of them.
How does that not issue a safety stand down?
How do you not, sorry, if I'm the commander, all women are going in a top. There's going to be night watch 24/7. Like I don't know. Whatever they did, it was not enough.
And it's great. Like when you really think about what we've seen as military members, even while we were on active duty, like I've seen when in Kadena, it's called Gate 2 Street, where you're going on Marine Corps Air Base Kadena, and the Secretary of Defense rolled through and saw several different drunk service members partying. They immediately cut off all access to Gate 2 Street for 3 months. Nobody was able to go, just on the look of what the Sec Def saw when he was walking through. That was a commanding general decision. Whenever you're, there was a time when I was in Okinawa and we had like 5 or 6 DUIs across all 5 bases that were in Japan. Safety stand down. Nobody can drink. Marines, not that you're wearing a lot of drink. No Marine was able to buy any more than a 6-pack per weekend. You had like a card that you could get. Like if there's an issue they could take on and make a command decision. Why don't you do that with this?
Yeah, I don't know
if
why.
People are getting, like, if you know that barracks are getting broken into, that is safety stand down on level 1 billion.
Especially on the heels of what happened there with Vanessa Guillen. Like, why would you immediately,
like, you just say
get out in front of it?
Every single barracks on this post will be out here at Friday at 8 o'clock. We're going to have senior staff and COs and officers go to every single window and check to see if and we're going to have housing that is going to be there to fix it. Like, there's certain things that you could do, but they don't want to make that news.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like if the commanding general of Fort Cavazos comes out and says, we're doing a safety stand down, every single unit's going to be here on Friday, we're going to do this. You know who else shows up? CNN. And that's what that commanding general doesn't want, because they don't want that in a recruiting crisis. They don't want that even more that we're having such an issue, even though deep down it would be the better move.
Yes. And
women would feel more comfortable. Every troop should feel more comfortable. Every single person, family member, anybody with a beating heart would feel more comfortable if they were willing to put they feel like it's a bad thing. But in my opinion, that's the type of action that civilian populace need to see, veterans need to see, active duty members need to see. Take it fucking seriously.
Mm-hmm. We're putting fucking cameras up until this guy's got, like, whatever you have to do, like, no amount of money. Yeah, it's insane. It's incredible that a woman didn't die, because it sounds like several times they were incredibly close.
And that was just this time. There definitely was on Fort Cavazos at the same time of people dying, for sure.
Yeah,
and maybe not directly associated with this dude, but the same safety violations, for lack of a better term.
The same
Yeah.
sort
apply.
of maybe not culture is the right word, but the same sort of environment conditions has permeated that base for whatever reason. I'm not sure why it's plagued that location, but maybe it's time to take a good hard look, harder than they did the first time.
It's an opportunity to be a great leader. It's an opportunity for some commander to come in there and actually make effectual change.
I'll say I encourage my troops to use the Hots and Cots app, and I'm going to be checking it and making sure, whatever.
Squeaky wheel gets the noise. That AUSA, they said like, hey, we want to like tamper down the use of the press and or social media apps. If they're going to bring to light things that need to be fixed, I'd say keep them humming. Yep. Keep putting stuff out there. Make it so you can't be ignored.
And those senior leaders saying that we want to keep it off, that's exactly right. The reason why you keep pushing forward.
Yep.
Because they don't like it.
Yep. They'd rather have somebody be dead than get bad look on their career. Anyway, that was such an infuriating story. It's insane. I'm going to keep checking back in on it, see if any new stuff comes out, and if he, hopefully he just rots in hell. That'd be nice. Mm-hmm. Anyway, change the pace here. All right, see you later, Cons.
See ya.
See ya.
Bye.
Round number 3. Good initiative, bad judgment. Have you ever dropped your phone somewhere that you had trouble reaching it, getting to it?
No, I'm responsible.
Really?
No, I have.
I once lost my cell phone in a movie theater, hole in my sweatpants pocket. Wouldn't you know? I lost my license down an elevator shaft, bounced out of my hand. I'd been drinking, boing, right down the shaft.
My worst one was coming back from Hawaii with kids, and I got off the plane, stepped into Houston airport, did like the very classic guy thing of keys, wallet, watch, and like slap my ass and didn't feel my wallet. And I was like, oh shit. And I knew I left it on the plane. They wouldn't let me go get it. And I didn't have it. It had my passport. I don't know why. No, not my passport. It had like my military ID, license, social security, like everything in it. And like getting any of that shit back, you have to have everything.
Holy shit. What'd you do?
Somehow, like 4 weeks later, I got a call from United because like my United card was in there.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, we have your wallet. I was in New York and it happened to be at Newark.
No way.
So when I went to go back, I went to the luggage desk at Newark Airport, the United, and they gave me my wallet.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I know.
Well, this story's not like that. This is, she doesn't, spoiler alert, she doesn't get her shit back. A woman was wedged between boulders for 7 hours upside down after she slipped headfirst into a 3-meter crevice while trying to retrieve her phone in regional New South Wales. We're talking Australia. I'm going to show chaps the photo really quick. There's her feet.
Okay.
She is so wedged in there. It is like a butt crack. It is like these 2 rocks or a butt crack, and she has slid right into the butthole, basically.
Did you used to love to squeeze yourself into cracks when you were little?
Yes.
Like sleeping in between the wall and the mattress?
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
How you could slither underneath a really low bed and get all the way across the other side.
I was so skinny, I would do hide and seek in between the mattresses, like the queen mattress. I would get in the middle and flatten myself out as much as I possibly could.
Sticking your head through stair rails.
Oh, yeah.
Through any kind of railing you could stick your head in and get it back. Yeah.
Spraying WD-40 in your eyes.
Idiot stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This woman, so she drops her phone. Matilda Campbell's friends initially spent an hour attempting to free her while she was hanging upside down before they called 000 for help. That's New Zealand's. That's smart.
I like that.
I like 3 zeros is way easier than 911. Anyway, the operation to free her from the unlikely predicament involved multidisciplinary emergency workers. It pans out. It's like this crack in a rock. And you just see the bottom of her 2 little feet. And then it pans out and there's like 80 first responders just standing around this rock that she's stuck in. So embarrassing. They removed several heavy boulders to create a safe access point. Then, with both feet now accessible, the workers navigated Campbell in her early 20s, feet first, up through a tight S-bend, which took an hour. I would be, like, even now, if I'm in a tight spot, even at night sometimes when both kids are on either side of me and I can't move, I'm like, I'm going to scream. I can't, like, I don't like being stuck. I don't like, even when I can't get a sweatshirt off quickly or something, I feel like I'm going to lose my fucking mind. I would not have had They would have had to like drug me or something.
It seems like a very Campbell thing to do.
It would be 500 kilograms. How many is that? That's how heavy one of the boulders was.
I have no idea.
It seems like a lot. I'll just say 500 pounds.
500. I think it's going to be like 1,300 pounds.
Yeah, they had to build framework to like hold each boulders from crushing her. Blah blah blah. The paramedics were giving interviews like, never in my 10 years have I seen anything like this. Every agency had a role to play. They worked good together. Blah blah. She was freed with only minor scratches and bruises, but her phone could not be retrieved. It was still too far down the crevice. Honey, you just got to let it go.
You do.
At this point, this photo is the most, because have you seen the one of the man who got stuck in the cave? He like ended up dying there.
Or the guy with that stuck his head in the Jaguar's mouth
In the Jaguar's mouth.
the Jaguar Stadium.
It took a long time to get him out.
It did.
It did, but they did. But yeah, this is just not worth it to me. I would imagine troops lose their phone in some crazy ass places too.
Yeah, good tie into the military.
Thank you. You know,
way to go, Kate.
You know it was coming.
I
you know
did.
I had to do it.
I did.
Yep.
Speaking of military stuff, did you see that North Korea is sending people to Ukraine?
For what? To be
Fight.
on Russia's
On
side?
Russia's side. That they are reports, Secretary Austin was talking about it this morning, that they have observed the actual movements taking place where 10,000 North Korean soldiers have gone to fight in Ukraine.
That sucks for Ukraine because that shows Ukraine was beating Russia down so bad that Russia had to
Get help.
get help. But 10,000 troops is going to really bolster.
That's dangerous. Like I haven't been much like this war could spread. This war could spread
Yep.
because, like it or not, North Korea has allegiances with like China, and so then you start talking about, if we by proxy take action against North Korea, does China get involved? Does that affect what's going on in Taiwan? Like there's
Yeah.
a lot of little fingers that are involved there.
I would not be shocked to see if I'm a North Korean troop and you're sending me to Ukraine, buddy, I'm dipping the fuck out in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
I bet they're going to see a lot of people dipping and trying to.
Speaking of North Korea, I don't know if it's going to happen. So this is just us talking on the pod.
Okay.
I reached out to a guy yesterday to come on my other show with Donnie, drop a pin.
Yep.
North Korean dude escaped from North Korea twice.
Twice.
Got caught the first time, somehow got to this river on the China-North Korea border and was one of the only people ever to be able to swim across, and he made it.
And they sent him back.
Twice. Like he went once, got sent back, and then he did it again.
Holy shit. Because I would assume China sends those people back.
Sometimes.
Fuck. That's insane. I feel like
Yeah.
once you get the itch, you got to get out of North Korea. You know what they say. Once you get the itch.
that is what they say.
I have been seeing, I don't know what this says about my algorithm. They already call me Commie Kate. I've been getting North Korean propaganda TikToks. Like once in a blue moon, I'll get one and it's like, look how great I came here just to have my baby because the healthcare is so good and everything is so wonderful, blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't know if someone just made it up fake to get like outrage or whatever, or if it's like real North Korean.
Either way, bad.
Bad algorithm for me. Bad algorithm.
Yeah.
I don't
have
it.
I mean, we used to have the same algorithm, but I don't have pro North Korea.
Pro North Korea shit. Uh-oh. I'm going down the rabbit hole too far. Too far. Fuck.
Too far.
Yeah.
All right, let's do some save rounds and alibis.
I don't think. I want to say I don't have any. The kids are sick. So I'm sick. And it's just, I forgot about that cycle of as soon as you hit fall, they're just sick until March.
Yeah.
So good time. We got diarrhea. We got boogers. We got vomit. I've been going through it. So it's been a good time.
Well, if you're going through it, Zero Black 30 is sponsored by BetterHelp. Halloween lets us have fun. Nope, as you were. Halloween lets us have fun with what scares us. But what about those fears that don't involve zombies and ghosts? Therapy is a great tool for facing your fears and finding new ways to overcome them. Off the top of your head, the number one thing you're scared of in the world.
Ooh. People seeing my boobs now.
Okay. They could probably help with that. Body image? Sure. There's definitely body image therapist on there. I was going to go snakes.
Oh, they do have body. Oh, snakes for you, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, so real. Okay, sorry, I was wrong. Okay,
Snakes is my number one scary.
that is a scary thing. You're in a good spot for it.
I
feel like-
am. I'm so happy because at my old place, if I had to get anything from out of the shed, I would be like, is today rattlesnake day?
Yep.
You never knew if it was going to be a rattlesnake. And my
Okay.
neighbors, they all knew that I was scared. of it.
Oh,
But I
wow.
I was the only dude that worked at home. A lot of the ladies were working there. My wife worked at home. So I would get calls sometimes from the neighbor ladies like, hey, I got a snake in my backyard. Can you come get it? And I'm not going to say no. So I'm going up there fucking terrified.
Yep.
Finding the longest stick I can. And I'll be honest, I know that there's going to be a lot of people listening, don't like killing it. I don't give a fuck.
Yep.
Snake on my yard, I'm killing it.
It's trespassing.
Yeah, especially rattling.
BetterHelp can help you with that.
Thank you. I
can be more
forgot.
calm.
Kate points at my computer like,
I saw his eyes start to go. I was like, he's reliving a nightmare, snake murder.
So if you're thinking about starting therapy because you're scared of snakes or nope, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/0 today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/0.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, BetterHelp.
I don't really have anything either. I've been telling people about my books. Can I tell you quickly?
Yes, please.
Book recommendation of the week. It's called Shantaram. I don't know. First name is David. The guy who wrote its name is David. I don't know. David Foster Grant, maybe. But it's called Shantaram, and it's about a dude that escapes prison in New Zealand or Australia. One of those. He's from New Zealand, but he ends up finding a way to India, and he gets involved in a bunch of shenanigans there. I'm only like 300 pages in. It's long. It's like a 1,000-page book, but I've cried twice already and have hysterically laughed several times. And it's so good and so visually like where it's hard for you to wrap my head around like what an Indian slum would look like what the slums in Mumbai look like. So I did these little drone tours. Like I would read a certain part about a different area and then go on YouTube and look up drone tours to see like what it actually looks like.
Yeah.
I know so little about India, but I am so fascinated by it.
Yeah.
Like I just think that having 1.3 billion people in a spot where the cultures are so different, it's the oldest spoken language in the world.
Really?
They have certain villages that have the villages and the communities that have been there have been around for 6,000 years.
Is the caste system still
very huge?
It is still like very ingrained in. Okay.
And Mumbai is terrible in a lot of ways for people that are on the lower end of the caste scale, and they still are having anywhere from 80 to 100,000 people move in every single month.
Holy shit.
In those areas. So they want like how they're going to catch up with infrastructure is crazy. I don't know how they're going to do it, but it's a fascinating tale. Highly recommend Shantaram. And
Gregory David Roberts.
And if you just need a nice little laugh, the book, I finished it this weekend. Lust and Wonder, Augustin Burroughs. Do you know him?
Yes.
Running with Scissors.
Yep.
Hysterical. Just a little memoir.
Damn, you're really cruising through them.
Mm-hmm.
Really? I love that.
Met my goal. Book 70 done.
Damn.
This year.
You seem more worldly. Seem more smarter than me now.
I feel dumber than ever.
No.
Yeah.
That's because your thirst for knowledge is increasing. Your world's getting bigger.
Good point.
Feeling smaller.
Good point. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. It's on the retreat.